Justin Tilley and Eric Sharp.
Hey.
Hey, Justin.
Hey, Eric
Happy
Sharp.
Friday.
Happy Friday. You look a little redder, pinker, tanner,
Yeah.
maybe even.
Just a little bit.
Oh.
Yeah, I was out in California this week. Not too shabby of a place to be Sunday
No.
through Wednesday.
No. What happened this week? Why were you in California?
I tripped and fell on an airplane and landed in Huntington Beach.
Oh, it's random. Why there?
Well, the AIM conference happening.
Oh, yeah. No, I heard a little bit about that. Yeah. We'll have to catch up on that in a bit. Do you have some takeaways to share with us a little later on?
Yeah, I look forward to sharing some takeaways. Definitely buy sunscreen ahead of time, but we'll talk about that in just a little bit.
Yes, but first let's celebrate that it's Friday. Let's celebrate that it is May 8th. A wonderful day. It's actually this day in history. It's actually the day that the Beatles released their 12th and final album, Let It Be, along with a film of the same name. And in 1970, so quite a while ago, the 12th album, which is, the Beatles are iconic. Right? They have like a huge a body of work. What's so interesting, and I think maybe timely for, I don't know, people in my world, but just for all of us that kind of see something happen, a conference ends, a job ends, a partnership ends, there's a transition. All of these folks, the four of these guys went on to do amazing things beyond the Beatles, right? Paul McCartney, John Lennon, George Harrison, Ringo Starr, they all did a whole bunch of stuff. So even a good lesson for us is even when one thing ends that might be amazing, there's more to do and more to go on. Yeah.
This is true. So listen to some Beatles albums is my takeaway on this.
Yeah.
What's your favorite album?
I don't know. I like three of the songs on Let It Be are heavy. I don't know. I used to teach music to kids, and some of these songs, like Yellow Submarine, was one that we taught to a lot of kids over the years, and I don't like that song anymore. So I just taste. How about you? Favorite song, favorite album?
I would be, probably the White Album. I don't know.
Yeah. Very cool.
I mean, I don't listen to enough Beatles, but let me tell you, I appreciate the Beatles.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people do. I think they're part of our subconscious. Even if we're not listening to them, they've influenced me. Like they're in our canons. However much of a fan or not we are, but
comes into our vernacular every day, all the time. Well, Speaking of prolific people and groups.
Yes.
Justin, some folks at Rangewater got together and said, we're not just going to let it be.
No, they're doing a little more than that, right? They're kind of calling themselves an independent property management platform. Is that correct?
That is correct. They have built their own platform, which is, to my knowledge, one of the first that a top 25, 50 NMHC organization has been able to accomplish.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see what that consists of and how that works exactly. If it is just truly, bespoke to them, or if they've made it bespoke because they've connected great fitting seamless things together. It could probably be a little bit of both, I would guess, with AI.
Yeah, I would hope so. And I would argue they probably use lots of human developers, right? But they've additionally used AI in order to expedite this, to get it out the door. And something that is also important, Glenn Mathis has now been appointed as the chief executive officer,
Yes,
thus
attached to
pictured
and board and put on the board as well.
over there, over there.
There, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think this is a step in the right direction. In general, I think it's going to potentially shake some things up more than just shaking feathers. I think this is a potential beginning of a shift in our industry.
Yeah, one of the things that he mentioned that is kind of central to it is that being an independent platform, they can have a singular focus to invest in disruptive technology, exceptional talent. So they're really trying to bring those two things, like you were saying, AI and humans, together to kind of deliver for clients, residents, etc.
Yeah, and I mean, how great will it be? I actually saw that they did a recent acquisition, although maybe it was from a while ago. But one of the recent acquisitions, it's like, how great is it that you could do an acquisition and immediately write code in your own platform to absorb that new acquisition and all the intricacies involved, right? I mean, that's just to me the demonstration of like the future of ownership
Yeah.
and
Now,
property management, the
yeah,
ability to acquire and then absorb those units and assimilate them into your existing platform. Like, you have to do that.
yeah. That's the
This
goal.
is the way,
That's the
right?
goal. That's the yeah. I mean, I'll devil's advocate it or not. I won't. But Stephen Collins kind of did this week. He was talking to Connect CRE, and he was kind of highlighting or shadowing the dark side of AI, which is the incorrect information we get, the biases that AI has, depending on what you're pulling or what you're using or what that agent has been kind of trained to do. So, like any, you know, creation, space, innovation, anything there, it will not be without, some trouble spots. But that's part of, you have to kind of work through those to get to the better, the dream, the goal, like you were saying.
Well, as the big players are creating more independence, developing their own continent, if you will, their own island of independence, Zillow is making it even more frustrating for independent landlords, owners, to work with them. They're just forcing you towards a paid subscription, essentially. And Peter
Right.
Lohman demonstrated this with his recent frustration, where he noticed that Zillow quietly removed property managers' phone numbers from the listing, unless you're on the paid plan.
Right. And where this really impacts, right, is not the top 50 or not the folks that we see frequently or go to the conferences, but all the bulk of where a lot of these assets live and are managed by is these independent, smaller owner operators, or smaller fee managers for that matter, where they don't have the price point for something like that doesn't make sense for them and couldn't really make sense, and now they're kind of burdened with this with this blocker or obstacle kind of in
Sure.
what their goals are trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine anyone with under 50 units is probably pretty pissed off about this at this point. Whatever number of units you have, but we feel for you, so we're thinking about you. And I know that Peter Lohman very much so was frustrated to hear this. I'm assuming this affects, gosh, thousands of
Oh,
people who use
yes, at
Zillow's
least,
platform in
at
the
least.
tens of thousands.
Yeah. We all, there are so many apartments that exist that aren't that are small multifamily units, right? That are smaller within that make up a huge ecosystem in lots of economies all across the country. So
Yeah,
it's
we're just driving people back to Craigslist. That's basically what it is.
that's all I ever wanted, Eric.
That's right. All you
See
ever
you
needed.
to use Craigslist. That's how I found my first roommate.
That's how I
You
found
know.
I found the highest highs and the lowest lows
Now,
on
okay, all
Craigslist.
right. Here now we're gonna talk real talk. Did you ever do a Craigslist date?
No. No, no, I'll put my finger. Wait, you
And
put your finger down. Yeah.
no, I did two of them in Boston. Nice, lovely girl. It was actually one was horrible. I'll tell you off the air that story, or tell someone else if I
You
meet
are
them.
spilling the tea, my friend.
Hmm.
Spilling the tea.
You are knocking
Well,
it out with these transitions, dude. I'm impressed. I'm
crushing
impressed.
it. I'm on my game after a nice glowing tan in
Hmm.
California. Well, look, I want to talk a little bit about AIM.
Yeah, tell us.
It was my first time. First timer at AIM, first time caller, long time listener. And my expectations was that AIM was going to be a place that blended, marketing and operations together, really looking at the next 2 to 3 years of both technology and like what resources do you need? Like, what do we need to gear up to like go to battle, to get through this season, but ultimately to get through budget season, right? And like, what are we gonna buy to equip ourselves, arm ourselves? Do we go for the latest and greatest technology, or do we continue to shop it out and have it improve a little bit more? Right? A lot of people, obviously, there was a lot of talk about AI, but for me, I think one of the interesting things that I did post about. And I'll talk about a little bit later, but I did a post, an assumption or a post right before I showed up at AIM. And my thought process was that, look, renters are now showing up to property websites with way more information than they did 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 10 years ago, right? We now are gathering information. And once we land on the property's website, we essentially are ready to make a decision right then and there. And if you're unable to give us access to, book a tour or to get that last piece of information that we couldn't find, then you're likely to either get skipped over or maybe you're not first in line anymore, right? Maybe you're second or third in line. You kind of get like chunked down the list of properties to go tour. So, it's all coveted tour, right? Everyone wants to get someone to tour, whether that's a virtual tour or a physical tour in person, right? Because you can't always go tour physically, especially if you're moving across state or, just a busy person and you don't have the time to do it. So that's kind of my seeding of what we're going to talk about here. This is a photo. Yeah, go ahead.
I have
You
a quick
want to chime in
question
there?
on what you were saying. Yeah, just with that, how, and I'm curious as you kind of describe the rest of AIM, but do you feel like there's like kind of a juxtaposition with like if you're focused on that virtual experience where you forget about the on-site experience? And I'm saying this because this week I read, I think it was Lisa Trojan, but I don't quote me on it, but was highlighting the fact that there are properties where they don't take walk-ins, and so it all has to go virtually. So do you find that has that was that part of the conversation, or what are your thoughts on that struggle of like, well,
Sure.
you got to
I,
fix the
I,
problem you're talking about, but you also have to do this other thing.
I do have thoughts on that. I think we're going to see a dissection, a bifurcation of brands of properties. I think we're going to see the future forward modern properties that are like only virtual tours or pushing that first, right? You're pushing for virtual tours or self-guided tours. Okay, thus eliminating and centralizing all of your operations as much as possible. We're going to see, they're all going to be AI first, AI friendly, minimal amenities or reduced amenities typically. Um, and then you're going to see the more human led, human driven properties that have staff on site 24/7, more like a hotel experience. And it's going to cost more, but the experience is going to be drastically improved, or at least in my opinion, improved because you can call on a human, but also still use technology to like get what you need. But a lot of companies are doing this with hotels right now, right? Where it's like, if you need linens, just go down and get linens yourself. But like, I don't know where they are. So I like text someone and then they like tell me how to do it. And then they give me instructions of where I get my linens. Okay. Same thing with everything from property maintenance to, getting access to certain amenities, booking times, booking space in the podcast studio, or, hey, I noticed that there's some workout equipment that's broken. Like, I don't know who to tell because there's no one sitting at the front desk anymore. So who do I tell? I just text and I send a photo. Hey, this gym equipment's broken. Someone should check it out. And then that gets added to, a virtual queue of like how to address it. And then operations sitting in some silo somewhere, managing hundreds of properties like this, determine where on the queue does this lie. And on top of that, they're going to use information like, is this person in the beginning of their rental journey with us, or are they like 5 years in, right? And they're more likely to renew. So I think we're going to start seeing these like risk patterns and these highly digital organizations look at operationalizing in a completely different way than other organizations, which will be human-led, human first, experience first living. That's my big diatribe. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. In reality, Justin, what happened was I didn't see a lot of operations people there. I primarily saw marketing people, which was expected. My hope was that I would see more operations, titles, if you will, like everything from asset managers to like, people not with marketing in their title. My hope was to see more of those people. I just didn't see them. This is my anecdotal evidence. It was about an 80-20, rule. But holy cow. This AIM did not disappoint by any means. So I do want to show just to me, this is the future of prop tech right here in this photo. These are one of the many vendors that were there, but this was from an executive meetup group that came to the beginning of the conference. This is on Sunday. They all got together and were talking about everything from like hiring to working together. How do you get your money from property management companies, right? How do you work together? Partnerships, things of that nature, and just sharing notes as executives. And I really appreciated events like this happening, especially at the beginning, where there was that level of like co-opetition where, some of these companies do compete with each other. There's some crossover there. But at the end of the day, you can also just grow the pie bigger. Like maybe not grow your piece bigger, but like we're all here to grow the pie. We all want to reduce friction for renters. We all want to reduce friction for on-site teams. We all want to reduce friction for, ownership and asset managers so that we can continue to build more housing and delight renters so that they pay more money to live in our fancy places.
Yeah, that makes makes sense. It makes sense that you're gonna always see that influx of marketing over anything else. I mean, I think not indicative of the conference itself or the conversations that should be had, but I think that's more of what's going on in our industry in general. And if you were an operator and if you did try to go to X number of events a year, you have to do your job too at some point. So we have to do our job. So like at some point, where are you going to like put the, like, I can't go to this one. I have to go to this one. I can't go to this one. And I think the longer you've been in the industry, you see that more and more. And you're like, okay, well, I'm either going to catch them here or here, or I'm going to catch them here or here. And so it's tough to make the conversations that like, to your point, that need to happen. Are they happening because they're happening by happenstance, or is there a way that we can make them happen more intentionally? Because this could happen at this conference, that conversation could also happen at another conference, and that so it's like, how do you actually get to be in the room with the people you need to be in the room with? It's a good question, but not for us to answer today, but just
Sure, yeah. So here's two things that kind of proved my point earlier when I was talking about, the changing landscape of a renter and really the beginning of search. There's an insight by really the first, I don't know if there's a keynote or not, but Zillow comes in and says, hey, Renters are no longer shopping listings. They're investigating properties. Now, to me, that's a semantic word play change there, right? Like shopping versus investigating. But it's true. Like from my experience of building an ILS, there's two, in my opinion, there's two types of shopping. There's browsing, right, where we're in the store, kind of like looking at like the landscape of what's available, making this akin to like retail shopping. But then there's like you're actually hunting for something specific. Like I need specific pair of shoes because I'm going to a wedding next week or a show next week, and I have to have these certain pair of shoes. Or I'm a runner. Like I've just literally run the soles off my shoes. I need something new. In this case, with renting, it's like I got a new job, or I'm making more money. I got a promotion, or maybe the opposite effect, right? Like I can just no longer live here. I need to find another place, right? My roommate's moving out. They're getting married or getting hitched or moving in with a spouse. So what do we do next? Well, you're investigating properties, and this is happening off of your property website primarily. That's the hunch here. And Zillow is already seeing this with their AI. People are asking these real questions, and they're expecting answers from the ILSs. However, a lot of them are doubled, and from what I'm noticing, a lot of them are double checking when they go to the property website, like just making sure when they get to the property website, they truly do accept dogs over 50 pounds, or I've got 2 dogs, like just double checking on the the pet policy.
I think just to a point that I don't know if this was brought up specifically at AIM, it's not just generationally that people are now investigating. It's that the longer you do something, aka rent, the more skilled you are in doing it. I only rented for like 2-3 years, but had I rented for a decade, by the time I'm looking for my 10th or 8th or 11th property, I've already seen some of the stuff. So you're now renting to a much more educated base on what questions to ask. So it's having access to that knowledge based on the conditions of people aren't moving into homes the way that they were 2 decades ago, right?
No. And I treat this, I'll go to the next slide here just to show the more simple version here is, listings, they're saying the takeaway here is listings are no longer just there to attract interest. They're there to answer the questions, right? Support our role in finding a new place to rest our head and evaluating all of that. And ultimately, Zillow believes that it's their job to help renters decide. And to their point, it's true. You kind of like bringing people to the right direction, not just by saying, hey, there's a 2-bedroom unit available here. And then you click on the website to go investigate the property more. Like it's all being done in one central location. And Zillow, of course, is trying to double down on this. Everyone, all the ILSs are, even Google to a certain point is trying to keep people only on their site. You can do that with Google Maps now. You can talk to Google Maps. Okay. But the point is renters are getting more information up front without ever landing on your website. So acquisition and understanding your acquisition is even more important at this point, because you might have someone come to your website and within 2 minutes they're booking a tour and you're like, holy cow. Like there's this compression of time in which a renter used to come back to your website 5-6 times during a week before they booked a tour. And now they're coming to your website and within a couple minutes are booking a tour. And you don't know where they got the rest of the information from unless you have UTM tags or some level of knowledge behind the acquisition of the source, right? Whether it's paid, earned, or owned media, you better pray that. So I akin this to shopping for a car. My final thought on this is back in the day when we would shop for cars, we would show up to multiple dealerships. This is why dealers all put their dealerships next to each other. So it made it real easy to do comparison shopping. But nowadays, it's not that difficult, right? I'm getting ads for cars well before I'm ready to buy because the car dealers know that my car that I've currently purchased is 5 years old because they bought data from the insurance company, right? They know I'm driving a 5-6-year-old car and now it's paid off and the numbers are there. Like I'm likely to be looking for another one soon as things break down or the warranty goes away. Warranty information that's sold to partners, right? So when we went off to go buy cars back in the day, we would do that. We go, you bounce around to like the 2 or 3 dealers, you test drive a bunch of cars, and then maybe you come back the next day and like sit down and talk with someone for like hours on end. Now what's happening is we're researching cars over a period of time, all online, booking a test drive. And then we're buying that car sometimes right then and there off the lot. We're saying this specific car, I'm test driving it and I'm going to go. And this is the price I'm going to pay because I've already done the research with Kelley Blue Book and I've Carfaxed it if it's a used car. And, and it just, there's a compression of time in which the time for us to investigate is still there. Like we're doing this investigation, but where we're doing all of this as a renter or where renters are doing this investigating process is happening up higher up in the funnel. And it's because the ILSs are now empowered with AI. And it's because, Google browsing and Google Maps are all empowering renters to gather more information way up higher in the funnel. So you better be damn ready and make sure that tour demo link works or the 3D tour link works or, the self-guided tour has the available times or your AI chatbot is actually acting like a human so that you can ensure that renter will seal the deal, get a tour, and then sign a lease.
Makes sense. That shopping has changed. Okay, let us get through this. We get ready to do it fast.
Let's go.
We can be fast. We're like auctioneers. All right, 2 of us, Sean Ricehouse and Erica Neal, posted on LinkedIn this week. They reminded us that relationships matter more than the pitch.
Dig a Pony, Jonathan Bucklew, Justin Jones, and Christy Fickert talked about building live AI agents at AIM.
Yeah, they did it, right?
Pony. Yeah, they did it, which was another thing I wanted to bring up earlier, but we have it here. I mean, they actually built something live, which is so rare for me at these conferences. It's all talk. They built live. Freaking amazing. Well done, all 3 of you.
Across the universe, Stephen Carroll, we mentioned this. He actually said the highs and lows of AI from innovation to biases to incorrect stuff. He put that in an article, I think, with Connect CRE.
Mine, 111 Advisors was acquired by 5Q. A reminder that ownership, identity, and independence are just consistently evolving.
Dig it. I dug this. Michelle Crochet's poll for podcast junkies sparked some fun engagement across the feed. So she's a podcast junkie, asked how people vote for that, what they like, what kinds of podcasts. There's 3 days left to place your vote.
My good friend, let it be Ronald Harrington, hitting his 100th episode with Rooms with Ronald. Congratulations, bud. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's quite a feat, as we are going to find out pretty soon. Hopefully, we'll see. Maggie May, motherhood reflections. A lot of those this week, being a working mother, musings about that, kind of leading up to this coming Sunday, which is Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day in advance.
Yeah, I've got a feeling Missio Capital, Missio, is closing on its first Nashville development site with momentum on their side, and Oracle is headed over there. So well timed.
Pretty smart. I'm sure they knew. I'm sure they knew somehow. They find out early,
Yep.
One after 909, The Real Deal reported on the recent increase in Japanese investment in NYC multifamily. Since 2024, it looks like they've totaled about over $2 billion worth of real estate. So,
also known as just 2 properties. No, just kidding.
Exactly.
The long and winding road. MRI Software employees announced that their positions are being eliminated. Oh, God. Due to a transformation, it affected about 200 people globally.
Yes. So a tough week. A lot of talented folks that are now looking for a new spot, which they'll find. Yeah. For you, Blue Ocean is where Spencer Gray showed a beautiful picture of a very large, close to probably 6 foot long yellowfin tuna, but reminded us that there's way more beneath the surface of that result, what we didn't see in the picture.
Yeah, and Get Back, apartment management consultants partnered with Prisma PropTech to keep resident experiences moving at full steam ahead.
Yes, that's who they have tapped for their resident portal. So they're kind of now rolling that out across their whole portfolio. We
And
did it.
I
Oh,
will
yeah.
add one thing in here. Congratulations to Shelly Robinson for the Multifamily Collective. She announced, or I'm a part of it, but I wasn't in the first batch here because I'm behind the eight ball. But she announced a website that combines a bunch of multifamily consultants, all independent. But kudos to her for getting that out the door. She's been working on partnering up with a bunch of consultants in the industry.
It's like a consultant collective.
Yeah, you got it.
Just what good. We need to organize all the consultants in multifamily.
It would be nice to have one place.
There's
Yes.
a lot of them. All right, so we're gonna let it be for the rest of the show. We're gonna enjoy some Beatles music sung by a very popular choir. We talked about teaching kids at the beginning of this music. So this is PS 22. I never worked there. I did work in the New York Public Schools, but I didn't work at that school. But this choir is infamous. They performed on the Oscars. What this guy does, his name is Greg. He is amazing. Follow this group and let it be.